Hello and welcome everybody to another StarCraft 2 cast by Glitch. Today, I'm going to be bringing to you a best of 3 from the Go4SC2 Cup. The most recent one just happened this past Sunday, and it was number 171, I believe. For those of you that do not know, the Go4SC2 Cup is a weekly tournament that happens on the EU server, and I think they actually just recently upped the prize pool, actually. I think it's now up to £200 for winning their weekly tournament, I believe, which is quite a good amount of money for those of you that don't know. I think that's about like $300, about $300, maybe a little bit more, $350, something like that. But so yeah, it's a good amount of money, and the two players that are going to be playing here on GSL Daybreak today are going to be spawning in the bottom left position as the orange Protoss. Playing from Team Vitriolic, we have ReaL. His opponent spawning as the red Terran in the top right position, we have nukestrike. Now, nukestrike is not a player I am at all familiar with, but very, very common in these online tournaments, these online weekly tournaments, to see a lot of players that aren't necessarily professional players, just a lot of really, really good Grandmaster and Master level players here. And so we're going to have to see if nukestrike here can take some wins off of ReaL, the professional South Korean Protoss player, who I should mention is currently playing for Team Vitriolic and training at their team house in Germany, interestingly enough. So we have a South Korean training in Europe, which is kind of backwards from what we usually see. We usually see Europeans and North American players going to Korea to train, but ReaL is actually traveling in Germany right now, training at his team's team house. So, gonna have to see if that's gonna be paying off well for him and whether he's gonna be able to take down our Terran buddy nukestrike here today. Now, so far we've got a standard opening from both of these players. nukestrike did open with one barracks followed by a gas, and that's exactly what ReaL was going in to scout. Needed to see that gas count because pretty much if you see a gas geyser, it's pretty much going to limit the things that your opponent are doing to, well, tech-based plays. If you don't see any gas once you get into his base there, then it usually means that he's going to be doing something, either something very, very high in Raxes, something super barracksy, or he could be going for a very fast 1-Rax expand. The fact that you immediately scout gas, you know that your opponent isn't immediately going to be going for an expansion. He's going to be getting a little bit of tech, and he is not going to be taking his natural expansion super, super soon. One thing ReaL is still going to be having to worry about right now is the infamous 1-1-1. 1-1-1s can be very, very hard to hold off as Protoss players, and it's a very common opening that you see used as Terran against Protoss. There are a lot of Terran players rather, who almost just blindly open up with 1-1-1s every single game, try to deal a little bit of damage, and then kind of gauge from there as to whether they really want to take an expansion there or just continue to apply lots and lots more pressure on one base. We do see a reactor now coming down on the barracks for nukestrike. The factory has been laid down, no second gas taken quite yet, and in the base of ReaL we see that he went for that one gate, followed by gas, followed by cybernetics core. No second gas was taken though, and he did start to take his natural expansion. So we do see that natural going to be coming along here very shortly. But nukestrike, I don't think he's going for damage here, or I don't think he's going for econ here, as he is now throwing down the starport as well as that second gas. That screams to me that he is going for aggression. We might see some banshees here early on. We do see hellions are being produced, as well as a lot of marines, which are now being double produced out of this one barracks in the base of nukestrike. Now, ReaL is going to be throwing down a few more gateways, so this is a pretty standard opener here for Protoss, going one gate into expanding and then throwing down these 3 gateways so that you can start to get a lot of units up to defend this this Nexus very early on. But is it going to be enough? He did now just poke up into the main and managed to see that there's a fairly high Marine count, and oh, looks like he did manage to actually sneak by those Marines, and he's actually going to be able to get to poke up out into that base, or maybe not, because there are a couple of Marines here that shot at him with those rifles and said, nope, not getting that scout today, and now that Stalker just going to have to try to go on back home, because he does move a little bit faster than those Marines, going to be able to get away, not too much problem at all. We do see a medevac is now out here for nukestrike, and we do see 3, I believe it's 3 Hellions, yes, 3 Hellions that are now out on the field. A second barracks now being thrown down And as he's going to be applying this pressure, it looks like he's going to be throwing down a tech lab on both his factory and his starport. So we are most likely going to be seeing this initial push followed up with a little bit more aggression after that. 3 Hellions have been loaded up into this medevac, and they are now moving into the main base of ReaL. And it looks like he's about to start dropping those Hellions, and ReaL is way out of position to really be able to do anything about it. These Hellions only take 1 shot from each Hellion right now to kill those probes, and he is trying to focus them down. And oh, he does get a beautiful surround off with those probes, and nukestrike just going to be picking up those 2 Hellions, trying to do as much damage as he can. Now just going to be pulling back. In the meantime, Marines were attacking at the front, but so far they were held off by the gateway units at the front. 1 Hellion still alive, still trying to do more and more damage. So far 8 kills on that Hellion, bringing the total number of workers killed up to 13. That is a good harvester lead there for nukestrike. Now, we do see that a Banshee is now on the way here for nukestrike, and he's going to continue to apply this pressure. He is now up in harvesters, 24 harvesters to 22. But ReaL just wants to survive right now. He needs to just stay alive, needs to constantly produce lots and lots more workers. See, despite having lost so many workers, he's still in an okay spot, despite having lost all those workers, just because he's been on 2 base, and he's got the capacity to remake those workers rather quickly. And so it looks like ReaL's still trying to focus onto a little bit more heavier macro style, but we do see siege tanks now on the way here, and the first Banshee is now out, and I don't think ReaL saw that at all. That went just barely past the vision of those stalkers, as he's worrying about these Marines and siege tanks right now. In the meantime, this Banshee is just going to be going right around to the back of the main, going to start to deal more damage, and there are no units back here that can deal with any kind of Banshee right now, because there's just nothing that can shoot up. In the meantime, we do see siege tanks being rallied to the front. Siege mode just now being started. A second Banshee now on the way, as the first one arrives in the base of ReaL, starting to take down those probes. And ReaL, after my computer gets back from lagging a little bit, is just going to continue to try to warp in units, try to bring his stalkers back home, and try to take this Banshee down. But this Banshee is getting so many kills. 4 kills already for nothing. For nothing except a little bit of hull damage. 30 damage done to that Banshee's hull, and 4 workers killed. I would say that Banshee is so far by far worth it, and assuming he keeps it alive, he's probably going to make it a lot more worth it with the coming big push. Holy SCVs, Batman. That is a ton of SCVs that are now moving out of the base of nukestrike, leaving almost nothing in his base, and the Observer does see it. So the Observer knows this is coming, going to see more Banshees are on the way, barely any mining going on at all for nukestrike. He is going to be hitting real hard, and ReaL knows this, so ReaL is going to have to produce units big time. He's going to need more Immortals in this mix, as well as more Warp Gate units. Right now, he is not doing anything at all to produce units, because he's just a little bit supply blocked, and he's going to need to fix that in a hurry, because there are so many units here. 3 siege tanks sieging up on the low ground, force fields going down, trapping in some of these Marines. A lot of SCVs taking damage from these Zealots, and those Zealots just burned right through those SCVs, but there are still a lot of Marines and siege tanks still left, and all of these Zealots are now really, really low and won't be able to absorb much damage and act as much of a buffer for these Stalkers and Immortals. And as we can see, these siege tanks are doing so much damage to these Zealots, and the Banshees as well, doing tons and tons of damage. Will ReaL be able to hold off this early game pressure from nukestrike? I just don't know. There's still a lot of Banshees here to be able to deal with, lots of Marines, still a couple of siege tanks, more forces continuing to rally across the map here from nukestrike as more forces are rallied in. Probes now being pulled off the line to fight alongside these Stalkers, as these Stalkers are doing everything they can to kite back these Marines and deal as much damage to these Banshees as humanly possible, or Protosly possible, I should say, as the forces of nukestrike are now starting to push up the ramp. nukestrike doesn't have a whole lot left here, but neither does ReaL, and his worker count is down to almost nothing right now. 11 harvesters to 15 right now. nukestrike is currently up in harvesters, and he is just rallying in more and more units right now. And with this second wave of Marines and more Marines and siege tanks on the way, I just don't think ReaL is going to be able to hold this off. The food count is heavily in nukestrike's favor, 49-9, and ReaL is going to GG out of game 1, meaning nukestrike takes a win off of our South Korean Protoss buddy, meaning we are jumping into game 2 right now to see if ReaL can bring it back, or whether nukestrike will be winning this in a pure 2-0 shutout. So stick with me.